Hello, everyone, and welcome to the QT2 Systems, My Greatest Moment podcast. My name is Reem Jishi, and I'm the content director for QT2 Systems. Our featured athlete today is Marci Brown. Welcome, Marci. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before we went live today on this podcast, Marci and I were chatting for a while, and we're going to talk about this as triathlon in general being your greatest moment, right? Your series of greatest moments. So I just want to start you in terms of how you got into the sport.
I think it kind of started with running. I had to was really looking for some weight loss, and after some failed fertility, that was really my best bet. It evolved when I had a friend come down. It did IRONMAN Texas 2012, and I did not know what really Ironman was about. And so unfortunately I drank too many adult beverages and didn't truly get to enjoy the day. But luckily he came back in 2014 and stayed with my husband and I. We were very close to the course, and truly really got to embrace what the event and what the sporting event and the sport in general was about. It was mid-May. We made some deals. My friends were joking with us and said, "Oh, you would never do such a thing." And we said, "Oh, we'll have bikes." And sure enough, we had them by the end of May. We were those people that do what you're not supposed to do. We jumped in with both feet, arms, head, everything. And we started immediately. We were signed up as soon as Ironman Texas opened. We actually, for 2015, we signed up. We did not do a 70.3. We did, I think, 2 to 3 sprints and 1 Olympic. Do not recommend it, but we did it. And then we went in the following May, in like a 92-degree day. We luckily got to enjoy the last beautiful bike course, but we did Ironman Texas 2015. So that was our jumping point. That was an incredible day. I learned more about myself that day. And about through the entire training process. I think the training process to me is probably, I learn more about me each time I go for a long training session for sure. But yeah, so I didn't actually think I was even gonna make it through the swim, but yes, I did.
So you just to get this, because this is a little crazy, you watched Ironman Texas in May of 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
You, at that point, you were running, but not doing
no biking, no swimming,
no biking, no swimming. And something about watching it said to you, I think maybe I want to do this, while you were watching people out there for hours on end during the
I think
day.
the midnight hour was really the big kicker, was watching those people. And it was people for every age, every race, it didn't matter, tall, skinny, fat, thin, whatever you want to say, purple hair, green hair, men, women. It was pretty impressive, and especially to stand there and watch those last couple come across the finish line was extraordinary.
So that inspired you.
Very much so, yes. And even my husband, yes.
Okay, so this is something you and your husband did together.
Yeah.
You decided you were both going to do this. Okay.
Yeah, I was a runner and he was a big weightlifter, and we joined into this together. And again, we did not have kids, and we were at that point in our life really trying to find that path that we were going to be on. That path that I think a lot of people with kids kind of get, figure out who they are and work as a team. And we were at that point trying to find a healthy lifestyle. So yes, we jumped into this journey together. If anybody knows me knows I love to say Team Brown, because we have been on it together since day one. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something and not only has it caused me to grow and be the person I am today, and I can tell you 100 different stories of how it has truly made me a better person, better leader, better wife, better friend, but definitely has strengthened our relationship tremendously.
Wow. So how did you train for your first Ironman? Were you with the coach then?
I was with the coach then. We had met some friends very early on in the journey, who were on the husband was on the same journey to complete actually his legacy. So he was able to connect me with a coach in the very beginning, who I will always be grateful for, who got me through many phone calls of craziness. And she stayed by my side. My husband was not really did not want to coach, but he every day I had the same workouts, he did stay with me. So but I look back to that time and just getting somebody that doesn't know anything about triathlon, I should have paid that lady a lot more money because I think she was managing my emotional stability more than she was my actual fitness. So that is very true what they say about Ironman, that it is about 80% mental.
Oh yeah.
I heard that many times before my race in 2015, and I didn't really comprehend what that meant. I did at the end of it. And again, I'm a 16-hour finisher. Like I think I mentioned to you earlier, I was so changed the day that I went into the swim in 2015. I looked back and I told myself, the person that came out of that water was not the person that went in.
Yeah.
Like I said, see, this is a very emotional sport for me.
Yeah.
But I got through it. In fact, the first 30 miles of the ride, I was so excited. I think I kept bouncing up and down on my seat, just drowned. I don't recommend that for people. But again, it was at that moment that I knew that this sport was going to enhance who I was and make me stronger. And oddly enough, it was going to create what I like to call my grit bucket. And it was going to continue to fill the grit bucket, which would spill over into my life and into my relationships, which it had. So, but it was kind of cool. In 2015, I actually was on the Ironman's Midnight Finisher page, and I was their little cover page for a little bit. So that was pretty cool. That was my celebrity moment.
That is pretty cool. So, so when you got that first Ironman medal, how did you feel?
Oh, I love to tell you, there's nothing like your first. Every race has its own aspect. Every training has its own aspect to me. You learn something you did not know about yourself. For me, every race that we've done, I can tie something to it, whether it's has to do with work or personal. But that first medal and that first finish, I should tell you, and I should send you that picture. That picture doesn't even look like me because I was so full of salt. But the jubilation and all of the feels were in my face. My hands were up, and I'm never sure. I don't think I've ever taken a picture like that before. And I think Ironman caught it very well in that moment. I actually took the picture, and it's printed, and it's I have a wall of pictures from races in our gym, my husband and I's gym, and that is actually one of the main pictures that's there, because I think it reminds me that, you know, when you think you can do something, you can, because I definitely don't fit the mold. So,
Yeah.
so I'm not a fast athlete, but I'm a passionate athlete. I love this sport. I love racing. I love the people in it. I love what I've gained from it. So that passion, when all the other pieces fall apart, that passion is what gets you to the finish line, without a doubt.
For sure. For sure. So how long did it take you after you finished your first Ironman to sign up for your next one?
Not long. Yes. My husband and I got on a plane 48 hours later and went and spent a week in Mexico and did absolutely nothing. I wasn't really quite prepared for all the chafing. So I do recommend, if you get chafing, don't go immediately to the salt water. So again, lessons learned. But yeah, it wasn't too terribly long, and we were signed up for 2016, and we both said we can do this better. We can do this better. 2016, we went back to Ironman Texas because it's in our back door, our backyard, as I should say. And the more that we got involved, the more we realized that Houston, Cypress Woodlands, there's a huge triathlon community here. And the more we got involved, the more we loved it. We loved the people. We loved everything that it brought forth. However, 2016 turned into the year that they actually changed the bike course. So we had to learn something completely different. And they actually did cut it a little short because we had some floods. So that was interesting, but it was a fun course because it was a ton of people on the course, lots of turns. But it was also the year that right as we were coming off the bike, or I was, we started the day at 90-degree weather, and by that point a cold front hit, and in fact it blew down the starting line. they actually had to pause the race. And so I remember I was having, actually compared to the first one, I was having a fantastic race, and I was so excited, and I was on the waterway and I was running, and they're like, oh, you have to stop. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm going to have a huge PR. But I remember that it almost flew me into the water, and I was like, oh.
Mhm.
So we huddled into buildings. I learned for the first time what it's like to be racing like that and then stopped for 30 minutes and then told, okay, go. My husband was at the back of the course, and he will tell you, both of us, that was a challenge. So, but it was very exciting. I actually, I went from being a 16-hour Ironman to just under a 14-hour Ironman. So that was pretty exciting.
That's huge. Yeah.
Like I said, I have to note that the bike course was about 12 miles shorter. And as all of us endurance people know, that, that 100-mile mark on that bike just makes a big difference.
Yeah.
There was a time cut, but still, to me, the PRs were, the swim was huge.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, the swim was probably my biggest victory, but I also hung on canoes every 500 yards when I did it the first time, until I finally heard a volunteer ask me what the heck I was doing. And he said, hey, have you been training for this? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, what are you doing? Go. So I started to sing a song in my head that my friend had, Just Keep Swimming, and got me through. So my victory in 2016 was actually getting back in the water. And I did have some panic. I still panic, even going into almost my 12th. But I had enough where I could keep a consistent pace. So I had shaved off about 20 minutes of my swim time. So that was a huge victory. And again, not for athleticism, but just for the fact that I got out of my own stinking head. So that was a victory.
Yeah, it's so easy when you get to race like that to go. You go through every emotion over the course of a day in an Ironman, and to push those, I can't do it. What am I doing? Why am I here? Out of your head, and remember I choose to do this. This makes me a better person, And but sometimes it's hard to get. It's hard to get to that place. So
my husband and I, unless we have decided to go somewhere else to race, we actually make sure that there is a vacation attached to it, because it seems to be a really good motivator.
Yeah.
Just get to the finish line. I can get on an airplane in a couple of hours and go to Costa Rica or Mexico or somewhere fun. So
love that. That's great. Has there ever been a race where you finished that your husband hasn't, or the other way around, or do you?
No, we've luckily, knock on wood, we have both finished. There was a race, Ironman Cozumel in 2019. If you know that bike course, it's about 3 loops. And I usually, like I said, we usually race with friends. He was on the bike course and actually had come around the back of the island. It's very windy back there, and he finally made the turn and was kind of resting his neck, and actually somebody cut him off. Ooh. So he had wrecked. And I actually, because again, it's 3 loops, I'd come around the back and saw him. And he told me that his race was over and that I must keep going. So I really did think that we were going to have to find another race to be able to do our 12 and get our completion in. It was hard to leave him, and he was not hurt very well. He had some bloody knees, but both him and the gentleman were okay. Their bikes were not. So he said, there's no way I'm going to be able to continue. So it's really kind of bumming. It was disheartening, and I did not want to be in this without him, because we've done everything together. Come to find out, I finished my that was on my 1.5 loops. I finished my loops, and got into the changing tent. And as I was coming out, we had traveled with about 20 people. So they were all out there cheering us. And when I came out of the tent, they told me that somehow he got mad, fixed his tire, and he was on the course, and he was actually very close behind me. So we got to, as a couple, he's much faster than I am. He found me on the run, and we shuffled down the run course together, and he started to take off, and he said, no, I want to stay with you. So we actually have a picture of us. We got to finish together, which is pretty spectacular. So probably won't have it again, but it was pretty cool. So that's the closest we have ever come.
Okay.
Not finishing.
All right. So you've mentioned a couple times, you've alluded to your completion. When you are saying that, what are you talking about?
So full Ironmans?
No, yeah. Well, you said your completion. You've got a goal here you're going to, right?
Yes, yes. So our goal has been, I don't know, we kind of started on the journey and it just kind of started to build, and I think it's beast in its own. We got to a point where we just said, well, if we're gonna keep doing this, two things: we want to travel and do racecations, as we call them, and we want to go to Kona. We want to do the legacy. We're part of the two biggest age groups. We know that we're not fast enough to nowhere be near the podium. So if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's do 2 a year. I think that's pretty safe to say. Physically, we can do one early in the year and then kind of one later in the year, and that would get us there. We would have already completed. We stuck on, once we made that goal. We did one in 2015. And then I think following that, yeah, we did 2 every year since, until we hit COVID. We actually had Ironman Florida and Ironman Italy planned for 20, and obviously those did not happen. Actually, Florida 20 happened, but I work in a hospital. So at that time, it was not an option to leave my team, and training wasn't even in my mindset at that time. Yeah. So, but yes, we are training for the legacy, and we are just about to do number 12 in about 2 weeks. So we're doing Ironman Cozumel. So which anybody out there that picks a race, Ironman Cozumel is probably one of the most spectacular. Definitely worth the travel.
Nice. So, all right. So here we are, as we've been talking about races, we've gotten through 2016. So just kind of run through for me the races that you did pre-COVID. Just give me your list.
Ironman Texas was 15. Ironman Texas in 16. And then at the end of the year, we did Cozumel 16. That was quite the adventure. That was first time we'd ever actually done. We actually did one where we had to travel. That alone, that was interesting, but we knew we loved it. We knew, again, that's where the racecation was born. And then in 17, we actually had the amazing pleasure. I have a friend from Brazil, and he took us. And so we got to go do Ironman Florianopolis in Brazil. Spectacular race. And then we got to do, my husband and I went alone, and we did Ironman Maryland in 17. Let's see, 18, we came back and did Ironman Texas. And then I'm missing one age. Oh, I'm sorry. Ironman Mont Tremblant in the end of 2018, which another one I highly recommend. That town just loves us, and they love athletes. They'll do anything for the families. And then in 2019, I did Ironman Santa Rosa, which was an interesting race. Very tough race, actually, for me. The swim was a whole lot colder than I anticipated, and I paid for that for most of the day. So yeah, I'm not sure. If I go back to California, it'll be for the wineries. I don't think I'll go back for a race. With chip seal that nearly knocked my teeth out. So that was something I wasn't prepared for as well. And then that led us into the last one we did before COVID shut the world down, which was Ironman Cozumel in 2019. Which my big victory there was actually I shaved about 32 minutes off my swim because I found the current. So we were also traveling with a group, and of course most of them are male, so it was a big fun thing to say that Marci beat all the boys. So
that is a fun thing. They all got checked.
They did. Yeah.
I love it.
Yes. So,
all right.
So in fact, I got out of the water in 2019, and my husband was like, "What?" I said, "I think I found the current." I said, "Or did that, or my watch is broken." And then we had another friend that we were with us, and I was already in the bike course, and he came up, and we almost got in trouble by the official because he was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I see? What do I see? Do I see a Valkyrie? Do I see Marci Brown?" I said, "Yeah." So it's always been a fun joke now between us that I'm going to beat him. So yeah, so I am. As we go back, he's actually he's going to race with us, so that's been our big joke and lots of play. But yes, I'm going back to take over my title.
There you go. There you go. So when in this process, so you work with Coach Dawn English, who's a QT2 coach. When did you guys start working together?
So I've actually known Dawn for quite some time. She actually teaches a master swim course that we've attended. So I did have the luxury of already getting to know her a little bit. I liked her immediately. I knew we were a good fit. But I also felt she was very realistic in her mindset when she looked at people's lives and this sport. I work an average of 10 days and sometimes upwards into 14-hour days. So I needed somebody that could help me still achieve my goals, that would be able to understand the importance of my job. And I really sought her out after COVID hit. And my husband and I were ready to get back to racing because we lost 2 races and we still wanted to go to Kona. But I knew that I had to have somebody that could guide me through basically working through these surges.
Yeah.
Again, I'm the environmental services director at a hospital that's fairly large and very busy. I have 365 beds, over a million cleanable square feet. Again, I handle all the laundry, linen, housekeeping. I have over 120 employees. And it's critical that I'm here with them. And so as much as I love my sport, I need to be able to make sure that I maintain my sanity with them and stay strong as a leader, but that I'm here and present with them as well. So Dawn was just the best fit for me. And I knew it just from the time I had gotten to know her. So that was in May of 21.
Okay.
So, and we connected. And I think the first long race we did together was Ironman Florida. Where that was a race. I think anybody that sees this, that knows anything about that race, over 500 athletes didn't make it out of the water.
Okay.
It's the only race I actually really wanted to quit.
So you had between end of 2019
Mhm.
and then you had a year basically where, I mean, some super stressful times at work where you're, I mean, to have the responsibility for maintaining how sanitary a hospital is. I mean, that's really what you ended up doing for a long time. That must have been really difficult emotionally, physically, everything. And
Yeah, I can't tell enough people this, but Ironman is what Ironman gave me the strength to do that.
yeah.
Being able to survive when it was hard. The training and the racing taught me how to get through it. Even though I don't think I knew it at the time and kind of just had to sit back and reflect later. But Ironman teaches you to compartmentalize, because when things get really tough, and if you have to try to look at that whole big picture, it's so overwhelming, at least for me. And when I learned how to really look at things in a smaller pieces and take those chunks and really embrace them, it made the bigger goal a whole lot more doable. We joke a lot. Again, my big thing is always talking about my grit bucket, and I had filled it for years, not knowing that I think it was filled to make sure that not only myself, but my team, that we made it through COVID. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the only hospitals that I know of that I did not have team. None of my team quit. They stayed with me. I have a lot of people that I know that run hospitals in the same capacity that I do, and they had a lot of housekeepers that walked away. So I'm not going to do this. You're not educating me for multiple reasons. But I think Ironman and the training to do those races truly taught me how to be that leader of strength, even when behind my own eyes and the heart, when we knew nothing. And, you were hearing so much static from the news and trying to comprehend all of that. It kept me strong for them, and it helped me survive.
Yeah.
So I knew as soon as we kind of started to come out of those dark surges, those first 2 or 3 surges, that we had to come back, because I knew that this is what helped me survive. I know that I questioned my grit bucket when I came back quite a bit, because when Florida happened and I had worked so hard to get myself to the swim, and I was doing so much better in the swim, and not knowing what was happening to that swim, and it was happening to everybody else, that it was a bad day for swim. It was an undertow. It was pushing you sideways. Even the boats and the canoes out there could not stay where they were supposed to be. Even the pros, if you look back at their times, are significantly slow. I mean, they were like 110, 112.
Yeah.
But I got on the bike thinking, again, not knowing that everybody had that day. Again, all mental, right? I got on the bike thinking, oh my gosh, did COVID take my grit? Is it gone? Can I not do this anymore? Did it empty the bucket? I actually got really frustrated during training, and I put that on. I'm honored to be part of a Valkyrie racing team, and it's a female, as a whole, it's a triathlon team, is Valhalla, but they have a team for just the females. And I actually put that on the Facebook page. I said, did I lose my grit? Is it gone? And the support and the answers from my teammates was exceptional. That's all I needed. I needed to know that I didn't lose it. And I don't think you can lose it, but I think there's a lot of times that people think they do lose it. And you feel like something significant as COVID really could zap out a lot of things, and you just don't know if it's going to come back.
Yeah.
So.
That was, yeah. I mean, for a first race back, and that, I mean, gosh, that, and it was like super calm the day before, right?
Yes.
I was just talking to one of my athletes about it, who's racing Ironman Florida this year. And she's like, Reem, it's too calm. It's too calm. Because it has, like, we need one really rough day, because then race day will be fine. And it's a tough swim, and so many people didn't come out of the water that day. And I think if someone had told you coming out of the water that that's what would have happened, maybe your mindset would have been different. But I can see you coming out and having worked so hard, and then, but you had the grit, you kept going, you finished the race.
Yes, it took me a lot longer than I anticipated, but yeah, yes, my husband explains that swim like coming and landing like an airplane that's landing in water, and you just feel like you go like this. So, but yes, I do wish that yes, everything about this is mental. I wish somebody would have told me coming out of that water, everybody else had a horrible swim, you're fine, go.
Yeah.
But it took me about 20 miles on the race. I mean, on the bike, to really get my spirit back. And actually, I'm very grateful for a friend that we travel with, and he ended up, I beat him in the swim again. But he actually came up behind me in the bike, and he said, what are you doing? What's going on? I said, I want to quit. I'm done. It's the first time I've ever felt that way in Ironman, that I truly couldn't do it. I said, I'm done. I'm going to go drink beer. And if I'm going to take all this work and hard work I've done training, and I'm going to go to Cozumel.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what? No, you're not. Stop being a big baby. Go. He did.
Right?
Yes, virtually, or side by side on bikes, as we were, because then also a cold front had hit. So we were literally wrapped in tube socks and everything that we could buy at Walmart that we knew we could shed off later. Yes. And yes, I will be always eternally grateful for Scott, because it took that to get out of my head, and even still not knowing how bad the swim was for everybody, and say, yeah, the bucket is still full and you can use it. You need to keep going.
Yeah. So what came after Ironman Florida?
Ironman Texas, actually, it had been deferred. It was deferred in 21. We had trained for Ironman Texas in 21, and they actually canceled it 3 weeks before the race. That was a huge hit. So really, I've never had a race that you work. Everybody out there knows you put the hours into this, and
3 weeks out, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I know. My husband and I, every day, our alarm goes off at 4 a.m. We both work 10 plus hours a day, and with your phone, even probably more than that when you get home. And so, yeah, to have that happen, that was pretty. I'd heard people talk about it, but you don't really feel it until it actually happens to you. Yeah. It's very frustrating. So it was a deferral. So, but it was actually a nice little bit of a comeback from Florida, because obviously we live here. We're very involved in the triathlon community. So when we first started, we were very involved in a separate, kind of like the east side of Houston. And then in this last round, we've been very involved with the triathlon community on the other side of Houston. So we've gotten to know quite a few people, and so going to race Ironman Texas when you know as many people is pretty spectacular. Yeah. My husband said, I felt like a rock star. If you know the Ironman Texas course, so the bike course is on Hardy Toll Road, which is super exciting. But even out in the middle of nowhere on the freeway, there was people yelling our names. So that was pretty neat. Yeah. From the moment we got out of the water, again, I had people that I'm in Master Swim were actually volunteering and pulling us out. So that was as tough as the bike was that day. It had, I think, out on out on the bike course, I was doing about 13 miles an hour one way, and then I was doing about 25 miles an hour when I would come back. We got to do that twice.
Yeah.
So, and any of you know that ride in wind know that wind can suck your soul out in more ways than one.
For sure.
So, but coming back was a lot of fun. So, but it was really neat, and it was really cool to get on that run course, because again, if anybody knows anything about Ironman Texas, the run course is phenomenal. And you are literally with people so many parts of that course, and to get onto that waterway and just was a rock star. We knew we had been in this so long now that we've known so many people that it was, you know, and it was one of the races that really had, it was one of probably the first races that would really come back. And so it was very well attended. There were so many people every time you turned a corner, even in some of the places that on the run course that we had run previously that were very, very vacant of people. There wasn't this year. There was just people everywhere. So, you know, also I had my secretary surprised me on mile 21 of the run with a sign. So that was, you know, that's always a nice little pep to get you through the end. So, and one of my other managers actually met me as I came out of the swim course. So, you know, so all that, like I said, every race, every training has something spectacular to offer. And whether it's bad or good, you just don't really realize how much this feeds into your life. Even if it's a bad workout, you gain something from it, whether it's multiple flat tires or just headwind that's just killing you. But that victory you feel from getting that 75 miles done in solid 10, 20 mile an hour headwinds is, for some odd reason, can strengthen you and drive you to do more than you ever realize.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You're so much more than you ever thought you would be 10 years
yes.
ago, right?
Yeah.
It's changed.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, just talking to you, how much the sport has shaped the person that you are.
Yeah. And I will say, so this past weekend, we actually stepped up to the Houston Half Marathon. And I realized that 9 years ago, that weekend was actually my very first endurance run. It's that race.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote on my Facebook page, all I wanted that 9 years ago was to finish and be proud that I finished. And now to think that I was stepping up here using it as a training run for my 12th Ironman, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was exhausted from a long ride on Saturday, and I did not really want to be up and running on a Sunday morning, but that thought drove me like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 12, it's coming up now, right? Just a couple weeks.
Yep.
Back to Cozumel.
Yep. Back to Cozumel. Beautiful race. Taking our family, taking our parents. It's a good race to set your family down in, because you can kind of set them in one spot and they can see you twice on the bike and twice on the run, and they can walk down a block or two and see you in the finish. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kona or Cozumel gives you number 12, and then you fill out your application, right, for your legacy.
We do. And actually we had to, it's required that when you fill out your application, you have to have number 13 already booked. So we have signed up for Ironman Penticton.
Okay.
So I'm extremely excited. I've watched, again, you know, the YouTube videos that I'll get us all through those long bike rides and bike trainer rides when we're inside trying not to bite through the handlebars. Yeah, I watched it once and I was hooked. So
yeah.
But that's how we found Mont Tremblant. As soon as I watched the YouTube video Mont Tremblant, I knew it was a place we had to go. Yeah. Definitely worth it.
I've never heard anyone who's done Mont Tremblant that said, "Oh, you shouldn't do that race." Everyone's like, "It's the best race. It's so much fun."
Yes,
yeah.
It is in a ski town.
Yes, it's hard. It's a tough course, but worth it. I really have never had anyone say, "No, you shouldn't do it." So that's
it's beautiful. Yeah. The swim is in this crisp, cool water, which was actually warmer than we anticipated. The bike course is beautiful. There's a back of the 2-loop course that will probably, it will test every bit and anything that you have in your soul, because it is dead straight up. Duplessis, it will make you question why you're out there. And not only do you do it once, but you go back and it's at the end of like at mile 108 that you're doing it. So but it is definitely worth it. And the run course is stunning.
Yeah.
And then the people, everybody there just embraces you. They're just so excited. The hotel, they dumped over each other to try to help you with whatever you needed. Are you okay? Do you need electrolytes? Do you need this? I was like, no, we're good. But they're just, everybody just, they love the athletes being there.
Yeah.
So that really makes it a special environment.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow. This has been such a pleasure talking to you today and hearing your stories and your journey and your many, many greatest moments that all have come together and shaped you so
Well,
much as a person. So
thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you too. Like I told you before, as somebody about Ironman or a triathlete, we love to talk about it. But yeah,
you have so much to say, and really your story is truly inspirational, and I'm excited.
Me too. I can't wait. I'm ready.
You.
I love the race feelings that you get. Is probably why I keep signing up for it. We're in that window of that two weeks where you start to get the feels and the emotional aspect of it. And, you know, you put the milk in the pantry and the cheese ends up, you know, in the towel drawer. And yes, and all the craziness really, the taper brain starts to hit. So,
yeah.
and you stand in front of somebody and you try to say a sentence and you're like, yes. So
yeah, sure.
all the feels.
All the
Makes
feels.
you feel alive though. Makes you remind you.
But when that gun goes off, it's like it all turns into the positive energy going forward. I'm still like, I mean, having raced 20 years, I still get so nervous before my races. And I'm like, the day that I stop being nervous is the day I stop racing, you know, I mean, because you feel it. Yeah, you feel every bit of it. So
people ask you, they're saying, this is almost 12. Haven't you, why are you getting nervous? And I feel the exact same way. I think if I'm not nervous, then I don't appreciate what it actually getting from the sport. And what I'm actually, if I'm going to spend this kind of time training, I mean, it's not impacting me like it should. Right. So, but
yeah. So. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Good luck in Cozumel.
Thank you. Thank you. So it
And
was a pleasure.
Your continued journey.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.